Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. I'm Chris Beers.
And I'm Stephanie Cox. We have insights and perspectives
on the stories shaping our world.
Breaking news, in-depth analysis, and inspiration to power your day. Now for our top stories.
We are going to tune in today to the Senate's hearing on foster children in the courts. This is hosted by the Senate Committee on the Judiciary, chaired by Jon Ossoff, a Democrat from Georgia. It's about the shortfalls in the foster care system, specifically in the courts. Let's tune in.
The Subcommittee on Human Rights and the Law will come to order. 8 months ago, the subcommittee opened a bipartisan inquiry into the safety of children in foster care, because protecting America's most vulnerable children from abuse and neglect is a moral imperative. We're talking about the most vulnerable children in our nation, and the most vulnerable children in the state of Georgia. Orphaned children, children who have faced unimaginable abuse, children who have been trafficked. For these children in our state, the Georgia Division of Family and Children's Services, DFACS, is meant to be a sanctuary. For years, watchdogs, oversight bodies, and advocates have been sounding the alarm about alleged systemic failures at DFACS, which receives hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funding each year, and which is subject to federal child welfare standards. According to the Georgia Office of a Child Advocate, or OCA, in 2021, DFACS received reports of significant failures directly from several local child advocacy centers and from the statewide organization Child Advocacy Centers of Georgia. OCA characterized these reports as evidence of, quote, systemic threats to children who are victims of physical and sexual abuse. The following year, in 2022, OCA issued a report outlining 15 breakdowns within DFACS and described them as, quote, systemic. OCA reported that in all cases they reviewed to produce their investigation, quote, DFACS failed to take adequate steps to respond to allegations of physical and sexual abuse, end quote. And that OCA itself encountered those same systemic failures, quote, consistently throughout the state through OCA's day-to-day investigative work. In response to that OCA investigation, Georgia DFACS denied OCA's findings. OCA stood by its report. The allegations of widespread failures that leave Georgia foster children vulnerable to abuse and neglect demand investigation. And Georgia, as a case study informing our subcommittee's inquiry, will yield crucial insights about threats to the health and safety of foster children nationwide. To date, the subcommittee has interviewed over 100 witnesses and has reviewed thousands of pages of records. Last week at our first public hearing, a former foster youth, a Georgia mother whose child was murdered after being placed with unfit caregivers, and experts and practitioners in child welfare law and policy provided courageous and eye-opening testimony to the subcommittee. At that hearing, we also made public that according to a DFACS internal audit from spring of this year, DFACS was failing in 84% of audited cases to, quote, make concerted efforts to assess and address risks and safety concerns to children in their own homes or in foster care, which is a federal child protection benchmark. On Friday, we released new analysis conducted at the subcommittee's request by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which found that 1,790 children in DFACS care were reported missing from 2018 to 2022. This investigation continues today with the second public hearing, this time focused on Georgia's foster children in the courts. And today, 3 experienced judges will testify before the subcommittee. We are grateful for your testimony today, as you are uniquely qualified to provide authoritative, first-hand testimony about the operation of Georgia's foster care system. I will now introduce our witnesses. First, the Honorable Carolyn Altman. Judge Altman is a juvenile court judge at Paulding County Juvenile Court in Dallas, Georgia. Next, we'll hear from the Honorable Young I Sims. Judge Sims is a juvenile court judge at Gwinnett County Juvenile Court, Division I, in Lawrenceville, Georgia. And we'll hear from the Honorable Winona Clark Belton. Judge Belton recently retired as a juvenile court judge at Fulton County Juvenile Court in Atlanta, Georgia. Before their opening statements, we will swear in the witnesses. So if you would all please rise and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give before the subcommittee is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Let the record show that the witnesses answered in the affirmative. You may take your seats.
We are tuned in to the Senate hearing on foster children and the courts held by the Senate Committee on the Judiciary's Subcommittee on Human Rights and the Law. What you saw there was Senator Jon Ossoff of Georgia discussing the importance of this hearing and the crisis that this nation is in regards to foster care.
He was talking about, foster children in general. These are children that come from abusive homes, often homes of substance abuse. They have these traumatic backgrounds. It's not a healthy upbringing in many cases, and it lands them in the court system, which sometimes puts them into the foster care system. They are, as Jon Ossoff was saying, they are some of the most vulnerable children in our society, and here we are hearing, and we will hear testimony, and this Senate subcommittee has heard testimony on just how vulnerable they are and how they face abuse and trafficking and other horrors. That's right. These children, they leave their homes where their parents are supposed to be taking care of them, and in many cases, like I was saying, they're leaving abusive homes, and then they enter the legal system, and where they meet a sea of officials who then become their caretakers. Judges, lawyers, cops, therapists, counselors, social workers, foster home leaders, of course. And so what really is going wrong here? Because with so many people, you would think that that could form some kind of coherent replacement for a family, I suppose. But as Ossoff was saying, DFACS is meant to be a sanctuary, right? The Division of Family and Children's Services is meant to be a sanctuary for these children. That's the initial purpose. But what we're seeing is years of alleged systemic failures. That's right. He was also talking about how, again, these are the most vulnerable children, and in the previous hearing by this committee last Wednesday, they talked about how human traffickers, child sex traffickers, go after the most vulnerable children, and in fact, many of the children that have been rescued from the child sex slavery industry, about 60% of them were at one point in the foster care system. Shocking. That's according to the FBI. Wow, shocking statistic there. And what's also shocking is the response, as Senator Ossoff pointed out. DFACS actually denied some of the allegations that were put forth in these years of allegations that have been put forth against the agency, instead of really tackling them. So that's why, obviously, this Senate hearing is intended to really drill down into this and cut through any of those denials. And it's worth just considering for a moment, why these problems could be happening in the first place. These social care systems, this foster care system, like so many social worker industries, are the social care workers are spread really thin in many cases, and they're not paid as well as, say, a Wall Street banker by any means. And they're oftentimes overloaded with work, with cases, and it's a sort of emotionally draining work in the first place. And not making excuses, but it does speak to the state of this foster care system in general and what might explain some of the problems we're seeing.
And so we do look forward to hearing from the witness testimony from the court judges who will be speaking later today. But next, our break.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the #1 supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
People's reactions to me, people were like, what are you doing? What is going on? You look amazing. You have a glow about you.
What makes Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen stand out from other brands? 10 types of collagen. It's grass-fed, pasture-raised with vitamin C and probiotics. It's proven to reduce exercise-induced joint discomfort as early as day 1 and reduce joint discomfort rapidly, continuously, and persistently. It improves the appearance of crow's feet after 4 weeks and improves skin tone after 8 weeks. And it promotes hair thickness, growth, and a reduction in hair breakage.
It has transformed everything from my hair. Like, my hair was starting to kind of just, come out, and I don't have that anymore. My skin feels amazing.
Call the number on your screen and find out how to get a free bottle when you order, plus free shipping and our 30-day money-back guarantee. And as a bonus, we will include Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin's revolutionary book, Multi-Collagen Makeover, free with your order, plus free shipping and free returns.
I have implicit trust in Dr. Axe because the plan worked. I'm living proof of it.
This is the collagen protein that is backed by clinical studies. It's what my family uses, it's what I use, and I know you're going to benefit in a big way as well.
Love the results or get your money back. This special TV offer is not available in stores. Call the number on your screen or go online now.
You're so right for me, and I'm right for you. I love the things you do, like sweet tasting wine. Your lips are so divine. Your loving turns me on. My lonely days are gone. That's why I'm never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you go. Babe, I'm never gonna let you go. No, no, never gonna let you go.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back. We are tuned in to the Senate hearing on foster children in the courts. It's held by the Senate Committee on the Judiciary, chaired by presided over by Jon Ossoff, a Democrat from Georgia. Basically, this hearing deals with the shortfalls in the foster care system, and it relies on the testimony of judges in the juvenile court system who have a unique and rich, deep understanding of the foster care system because they're presiding over the cases that lead to children entering the foster care system. So let's tune into the hearing.
And now, Judge Altman, we will please hear your opening statement.
Thank you, and good morning, Senator Ossoff. I appreciate this opportunity to share about the work and the people that I care so deeply about. I've been a juvenile court judge for 5 years, and the 10 years before that, I spent also in juvenile court representing parents and children and serving as a guardian ad litem. I'm a certified child welfare law specialist, and I consider myself a dedicated career professional in child welfare. People sometimes ask me what it's like to be a judge, and particularly a juvenile court judge. Even after 5 years, I struggle or hesitate to find the right answer or the best answer because it is both an immense privilege and a heavy burden. It's a privilege to bear witness to the incredible transformations we see in children and families, to see their healing, their restoration, and to get to know young people who are funny and creative, who are hurting and are deeply thoughtful. It's a privilege to work alongside co-laborers in this field, dedicated, caring attorneys, CASAs, DFACS case managers, and a host of others. The people are absolutely the best part of this work. It's also a heavy burden to know that the decisions I make will forever change a child's life and alter a family's future. Because if the information is incomplete, inaccurate, if the system gets it wrong, if the decision that I render is wrong, the consequences are incredibly real. It was hard to listen to Ms. Aldridge last Wednesday and to know that her story isn't an isolated one. Brooklyn's death is tragic, but worse, it was preventable. And you probably know by now that statewide our foster care population is lower than it was a few years ago. At our most, we were at 15,000 and we're currently around 11,000. And it sounds like a really good thing to have fewer children in care, but I'm increasingly concerned that we're missing children who need to be in care, and the ones who are may not be receiving their care, services, and support that they need to really be successful. I've seen this trend unfold in 3 different ways. The first is an overuse and sometimes misuse of a safety resource plan. And what will happen is DFACS responds to an emergency situation, creates a safety plan, and it's a short-term fix. But then they may not circle back, fully address the problem, and ensure that the child is properly being cared for. And the biggest danger is that children could go from the frying pan into the fire, and they could be left with people who may not be safe. They're not screened or vetted or approved by DFACS. There's no criminal background checks, no drug screens, certainly no extensive training as a qualified foster parent. And at worst, the child could be just as unsafe with the new caregiver as they were before. This is also problematic because DFACS will come in and rearrange the family with this out-of-home placement of the child, and then could, and sometimes does, administratively close the case, which means no services to the parent, no services to the child, and it leaves that safety resource caregiver without any help or legal ability to care for this child. And at times, the caregiver has called DFACS and said, I need help taking care of this child. And DFACS may say, your case is closed, there's nothing we can do. And in these situations, there's no court involvement, no judicial oversight, no attorneys, no due process, and no clear path for what the parent is supposed to do to get their child returned, and also how to address the needs of the child. A second area of concern is our high mental health special needs children. And these are usually teenagers who have extreme or elevated emotional, behavioral, mental health needs that cannot be met in the home. And we have exhausted and frustrated parents who are at their wits' end. And these children are highly vulnerable and they need the most help. They are often special needs kids, and DFACS is actively resisting these children coming into care. I attended a meeting in August this year with about 30 other judges and DFACS leadership. DFACS Commissioner Bro said that DFACS was not set up to be caregivers for these children, and she asked judges to consider detaining the children, locking them up in a juvenile detention center for a few days so that DFACS could maybe find a placement for them. As judges, we do not lock up children, especially special needs children, because we cannot find a place for them. A third way that I've observed that our foster care population is decreasing is through an increase in family preservation cases, and these are instances where custody of the child is placed directly with a relative rather than with DFACS. Now, placing a child with a relative is a good thing, but the problem is that the children and the caregivers are not getting all of the services and benefits that they would be entitled to if that child was in the legal custody of DFACS. The children aren't eligible for 4E or 4B federal dollars. They're not eligible for health insurance, as our foster kids are. They're not eligible for daycare, and the family caring for this child doesn't receive a foster care per diem and isn't eligible to receive the ongoing subsidy if that placement then becomes permanent. And so rather than giving our children, the families, and the relatives the best, the services and the benefits that they would otherwise be eligible for, DFACS will do a minimum and keep the foster care numbers down. Thank you.
You're listening to and watching the Senate hearing on foster children and the courts, held by the Senate Subcommittee on Human Rights and the Law, chaired by Senator Jon Ossoff. We just heard from Judge Altman, the Honorable Carolyn Altman, juvenile court judge in Paulding County Juvenile Court in Georgia. And she spoke to the immense privilege and heavy burden of this task, of her role. But she also pointed out the dedication and the hard work and the care of all the people involved in this foster care system, and all of the heart that's put into this, and lamented the tragic and what she called preventable abuses that we do see happening within the system.
She talked about her burden as a juvenile court judge. She's presiding over these cases where, children are coming from abusive homes, oftentimes with substance abuse problems. They can be physically, emotionally, or even sexually abused in some cases, as Senator Marsha Blackburn was saying the last hearing on Wednesday. And in the worst case scenarios, these children can actually become the targets of child sex traffickers. And yeah, she was just saying that her decisions can change a child's life, and they can alter the course of a family's future.
And being in such close contact with all of these conflicts, she pointed to two major areas so far of her concern regarding what she has seen. One of them was the information that she gets, and the potential misuse or the risk of making the wrong decisions that could influence a child's life in really terrible ways based on getting the wrong information. That was one thing that she pointed to. Another was?
She was talking, or just to kind of zoom out for a moment, the root causes, looking at the root causes of the foster care system. Oftentimes the foster care system is staffed by social workers, right? And they're not paid as well as other professions, and they're also given heavy workloads relative to the number of caseworkers there are. And so these people are kind of spread thin, and they can't exactly administer the type of care that we would hope they could. Unfortunately, not making excuses here, but
it does provide some kind of explanation in a way, or at least context for what's going on here, especially in regards to one of the judge's main complaints or warnings, which was about the misuse or overuse of the safety resource plan. So she called that a short-term fix. It looks like, according to the judge, that what's happening is a lot of these kids get given short-term safety plans that then don't have a follow-up to look at the long-term safety of the child, and potentially puts these children in direct contact with adults who may actually be an endangerment to them because they have not been given the proper screening, these new foster parents, or the proper training required to properly take care of these children.
She also talked about the most vulnerable. We're talking about how children are vulnerable to begin with. Children in the foster care system are some of the most vulnerable, and the most vulnerable of the children in the foster care system are those with high mental health needs. Oftentimes, these are people with developmental disabilities. And she just spoke about how these people are absolutely vulnerable, can barely speak for themselves in many cases, literally. We will have more on this hearing after the break.
Anyone who's ever sold a home can tell you it is really hard.
That's why who you work with matters. Together with Homelight, we've helped thousands of people sell faster and for the best price.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
Does this look familiar? You probably think this is what owning hearing aids would be like. Let me tell you, there's a better way. The Atom by Audion Hearing. The all-new Audion Atom is the world's first wireless charging hearing aid under $100. The Atom comes with an easy-to-use wireless charging dock. Plus, the Atom has a 22% smaller design, so it's nearly invisible when worn in the ear. That's why we have over 250,000 happy customers. Each pair has a 45-day money-back guarantee, so there is zero risk in trying them.
Call 1-800-918-3109. That's 1-800-918-3109. Call 1-800-918-3109 or go to audionhearing.com to get your pair of Audion Atom hearing aids for only $99.
My Towels solved a problem that we've all had with towels. You go into the stores and they feel lotiony and soft, but then you get them home and they wind dry you. That's why I made My Towels. They actually work, they're soft, and they absorb. And now I'm excited to announce 2 brand new lines of My Towels. What makes them the best towels ever is they're now made with 100% long staple Shapir cotton. This is a combed ring spun cotton that makes My Towels even softer and more absorbent than ever. And now you get a 6-piece set for an amazing introductory sale price as low as $29.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get My Towels for only $29.98. Or you can get my designer premium line for just $20 more. Either way, you save 50% now on all My Towels. They actually work. What a concept. This offer won't last long, so please order now.
MyPillow.com.
Thank you for staying with us. We are watching the Senate hearing on foster children in the courts. That's hosted by the Senate Committee on the Judiciary and presided over by Congressman Jon Ossoff, a Democrat from Georgia. The hearing really deals with the shortfalls in the foster care system, which what we're learning about, at least in Georgia, are quite shocking, and you'll see once we turn back into the hearing. We're hearing from judges. They're the witnesses today, and they preside over these cases and have rich insight into the foster care system and all the problems with it, because if a child goes through some problems in the system, the judge might actually hear about it in the courthouse. So let's tune back into the hearing.
Judge Sims, it's now time for your opening testimony.
Good morning, Senator Ossoff. Some people are surprised when I say this, but my foremost ambition as a juvenile court judge is to work towards making my role unnecessary. It's a testament to a deeper, more profound goal: to work in a child welfare system where the safety and well-being of our children is paramount and the need for juvenile court intervention is minimal. My name is Young-I Sims, and I proudly serve as a juvenile court judge in Gwinnett County, Georgia. Before I continue with my statement, I want to emphasize that I am here in my personal capacity. The views I express are my own and do not represent the views of any other judges, county officials, or any board, commission, or council on which I serve. Gwinnett County sits just outside of Atlanta and is celebrated for and often considered one of the most diverse counties in the entire state. It proudly oversees Georgia's largest school system, which in turn bears the responsibility for the state's highest number of at-risk children. On any given day, there are roughly 350 children in foster care from Gwinnett County. Sadly, we are failing too many of them. What I have seen develop in my time on the bench is a culture of child protection by the numbers. Cases triaged to boost statistics, and then closed prematurely in misleading triumph. It's widely known that DFACS has been under immense pressure to address what has been a series of public relations crises. What I have seen is that pressure leading to the neglect or deliberate avoidance of the most complex and heart-wrenching cases. In the end, we have a false sense of confidence in the effectiveness of our system, but the problems suffered by children and families still persist. Imagine a case where a mother overdoses on fentanyl 3 times, and each time it was her autistic teenager who discovered her unconscious. DFACS's own notes indicate a safety threat and impending danger for the child, but still, the agency seeks no court intervention, which, if brought to court, the court would have the authority to order substance abuse treatment for the parent. Rather than implementing any services, DFACS is even considering closing the case. Now imagine mother fatally overdoses the 4th time. While the grandparents are literally standing over the body of their dead daughter, and DFACS having provided no services to the family the entire time, they recommend that the grandparents file a private dependency case, conveniently absolving DFACS from any further involvement at all. This is not something I have to imagine. This is something I have received sworn testimony on. And if that situation is not shocking enough, imagine DFACS executive leadership suggests to a room full of juvenile court judges that we prolong a child's time in jail so DFACS can have more time to find a foster placement. Again, this is not something I have to imagine, as I and many other judges shockingly heard it with our own ears. To understand the depth of the crisis, we must first acknowledge its magnitude. State agencies such as DFACS are responsible for the care of countless children who are often victims of abuse, neglect, and instability. I acknowledge that this is an extremely difficult and sobering duty. But I also acknowledge that our current system fails the many dedicated individuals on DFACS's front line, who I have had the privilege of knowing, who work tirelessly despite the overwhelming caseloads, misallocation of resources, and a culture that seemingly prioritizes metrics over safety, statistics over children. With those challenges unfairly placed upon caseworkers, what I have personally observed in my courtroom is an increasing gap in service provision and a rise in inadequate information presented to the court, including the inability to answer the most basic of questions, such as, where did DFACS place the child? On the state level, I see our child-serving agencies creating legislation to circumvent their responsibilities and shifting blame onto other agencies when confronted with their own failures to ensure the safety and well-being of our children. I am acutely aware that I am critiquing a child welfare system in which I myself play a vital role. Consequently, during my tenure on the bench, I have deliberately and proactively welcomed external scrutiny from both state and national stakeholders to evaluate my county's data and procedures, particularly concerning child welfare. We've asked critical questions of ourselves. How many children are entering the foster care system? How long do they remain there? Are we fully utilizing all community resources before resorting to foster care placement? By nurturing open lines of communication and embracing constructive feedback, my county has, over the last 3 years, restructured our juvenile court, introduced new programs, and most significantly, continues to leverage all available resources to enhance the training of those who work in child welfare. These endeavors have propelled our court towards the goals of enhancing meaningful court hearings, adopting trauma-informed practices, and most importantly, has brought together local stakeholders for collaboration on tangible, measurable objectives. It's important to underscore that these practices and results shouldn't be limited to the judiciary alone. They can and should be replicated across all child welfare agencies and stakeholders. It is imperative that we openly confront the areas of our system needing improvement. Accountability on all levels should be the driving force behind the much-needed comprehensive reform. I will close this statement the way I started. To render my role unnecessary, I commit, and urge all of us to commit, to reshaping the child welfare system so that our children's welfare and safety takes priority and the need for juvenile court intervention becomes the exception, not the rule.
You're watching the Senate hearing on foster children and the courts held by the Senate Committee on the Judiciary's Subcommittee on Human Rights and the Law, chaired by Senator Jon Ossoff. We just heard from Judge Nanai Sims, the Honorable Nanai Sims, juvenile court judge from Gwinnett County. And she was speaking a lot about one of her main concerns being what she called child protection by the numbers, saying that due to overload of workload and things like that, she's concerned that a lot of things are falling through the cracks.
And that goes back to what I was saying before about overworked social workers who, again, are working in a field where they're seeing all kinds of children coming from abusive homes, coming from situations with substance abuse. You know, they just absolutely, demoralized. That's the word, and spread so thin.
And yet the agencies, the judge was saying, have been playing she said, a public relations game in a way, saying that that's led to neglect and also the people generally thinking that everything's fine within the foster care system and having what she called a false sense of confidence in the system.
That's right. She was talking about, this mother that overdosed 3 times on fentanyl and was discovered by her autistic child. And the 4th time she overdosed and died, the court sought no intervention in the child's life, and DFACS didn't take any action. The DFACS, the Child Support Services Department in Georgia, didn't take any action there.
And also remarkable on that story is the fact that they weren't involved at all, as per this judge, saying that they weren't involved at all before this mother died of these issues. And she's saying that not only is that kind of thing happening, but they're closing cases too early as one of the issues systemically found within this agency, closing cases too early and trying to absolve themselves of responsibility, she was saying, and doing things like suggesting that children have more time in juvenile jail just to give the agency more time to find somewhere to place them. So you can see that they're in a tight spot, because if there were easy access to foster care parents, this wouldn't be happening, but it is happening, and it's putting a lot of people in pain.
And it's such an important system too. It goes back to the 1800s with the slums in New York City, with these massive immigrant influx from Europe. You had tens of thousands of homeless children on the streets then, and they were actually shipped to homes, in foster homes, in the late 1800s. And that evolved into what became known as the Children's Aid Society, which really set the precedent for fostering children, became the basis for the Adoption and Safe Families Act of 1997. And, since 1999, basically between 1999 and 2019, over 9 million children have been placed in foster homes. So this is an enormous system with a lot of children in its care, and these types of problems, they're saying, are systemic and definitely need to be addressed. All right, we're going to go into a commercial break, but we will have more on the Senate hearing on foster children in the courts after the break.
If you're watching this, I didn't make it. Thanks to people like you and the American Heart Association, my family never had to see this video. I was a healthy 47-year-old, no symptoms. But then my doctor discovered I had a bad heart valve that was beyond repair. The scariest day of my life was when I was sitting on a gurney as I looked and my wife was at my side and my kids had me surrounded. Deep down, this could be it. This could be all there is.
Not having him around for Riley to grow up with and have that papa figure in his life, that would have been hard.
This little heart valve did something really big. It saved my life. I wouldn't be here today without it. The research for this heart valve was funded by the American Heart Association. And that's why I'm asking you to become a monthly donor for just $19 a month. When you do, you'll help fund the next medical breakthrough that could save your life or the life of someone you love. You'll also provide life-saving CPR training and help certify hospitals to give the best care to those who have had a heart attack or stroke. When you give $19 a month, we'll send you a t-shirt just like this one. From the moment you put it on, you'll help raise awareness for heart disease and stroke. Since my surgery, I had a son get married. I had a daughter graduate high school. I had another daughter give birth to a precious boy. I would have missed all that.
And that's why it's personal for me.
We're very thankful for everyone who is a donor because it gives us more time.
Every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack. The next person you help save could be someone you love or even you. Become a monthly donor today by calling or going to helpheart.org because it's personal.
Do you listen to the TV on high volume or have trouble hearing conversations? Then you would benefit from hearing aids. Don't waste thousands on expensive hearing aids when you can get Nano's revolutionary technology for just $297. Don't be fooled by higher-priced hearing aids. The CIC Recharge is a true hearing aid, not an amplifier. With rechargeable technology many customers say is superior to more expensive models. Call now and get not one, but 2 Nano hearing aids for just $297. Plus, we'll add a portable charging case and ship your order absolutely free. The CIC Recharge has a tiny in-the-ear canal design that is nearly invisible. Why keep missing out on important conversations or waste thousands of dollars? Call and get 2 CIC Recharge hearing aids for only $297 and free shipping.
800-631-4622. Again, that's 800-631-4622.
Thank you for staying with us. We are tuned into the Senate hearing on foster children in the courts, hosted by the Senate Committee on the Judiciary. And the hearing is presided over by Senator Jon Ossoff, Democrat from Georgia. And basically this hearing deals with the foster care system. It's been going on for months now. Well, the series of hearings of which this is a part has been going on for months now. And yeah, it deals with the shortfalls in the foster care system. And we're looking at witnesses who are also judges from the juvenile court system. So they really see and preside over these cases intimately. They know the details of them, and they can advise the Senate about what kind of legislation needs to be passed to address some really problematic systemic problems of the foster care system in our country. So let's tune in.
Thank you, Judge Sims. Judge Belton, you may now make your opening statement.
Good morning. I am Judge Winona Clark Belton. I am a retired juvenile court judge. I retired nearly 3 weeks ago after having served for 10 years as a judge for the Juvenile Court of Fulton County, Atlanta Judicial Circuit, where among other things I served as the judicial lead for the Court Improvement Initiative, part of a multi-circuit initiative, which is coordinated with the state's court improvement program, which is designed to engage and educate child welfare professionals, partners, and stakeholders about best practices for more favorable outcomes. I earned my law degree from the Georgia State University College of Law and my undergraduate degree from the University of Maryland, College Park. I was recently elected to serve an additional 3-year term as a board member of the National Council of the Juvenile and Family Court Judges, one of the largest and oldest judicial membership organizations in the nation, which serves an estimated 30,000 professionals in the juvenile and family justice system and provides resources, knowledge, and training to improve the lives of children and families seeking justice. I am a child welfare law specialist and have been certified for over 10 years through the National Association of Counsel for Children. I also serve as a cabinet member of Get Georgia Reading. I am a member of the Children and the Courts Committee of the State Bar of Georgia. I am also a life member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, whose motto is service to all mankind. I share my affiliations to demonstrate my commitment to children and families. However, my remarks today are solely based upon my own experiences and must not be attributed to any organization of which I am a member. Prior to my service on the bench, I was privileged to have served in a number of roles which prepared me to engage in child welfare work. I am a former foster parent and began my service in juvenile court as a CASA volunteer. Over the last 23 years in Fulton County, I have served as a judicial staff attorney, represented the Department of Family and Children's Services, and served as the clerk of juvenile court. I have represented indigent children in delinquency matters as a public defender, and I know better than most the nature of the challenges that the child protection agencies face. Frontline staff who are overwhelmed, underpaid, suffer from inadequate training, and burnout. My observations are based upon 23 years of experience doing this work from several different perspectives, and this system is not working as it currently exists. The most challenging issues I routinely observed consist of the following: delays in obtaining routine and specialized assessments, barriers to identifying appropriate, reliable service providers, ensuring appropriate services are provided in the appropriate platform, in person rather than virtual, insurance gaps and pitfalls, routine denials by insurers for medically prescribed services and treatments, including dental and basic orthodontic services, a lack of appeals of those routine denials, a lack of appropriate placements, especially for children who suffer from significant behavioral health challenges, lack of creativity, collaboration without court intervention through court orders, case managers often working in silos, underutilizing or simply not being aware of resources like the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation or the Georgia Justice Project. Placing the burden on children to participate in services and chastising them when they fail, characterizing them as difficult and uncooperative. Failure to ensure or provide oversight to enhance educational success and minimize poor outcomes for children as they navigate through the system and eventually reach the age of majority. An emphasis on policy rather than safety and protective factors. An inability to address the primary reasons children come into care: poverty, behavioral health challenges, and substance abuse. A lack of specialized case plans when reunification is the permanency goal. Decision-making protocols, follow-up and follow-through, and challenges with complex case assignment. And the fact that the only tool that judges have in their toolbox to help ameliorate these challenges is reasonable efforts. This list is by no means comprehensive. A colleague asked me many years ago, "Why do you care so much?" I care because I watched a 3-year-old child in my care try to walk across town to return to his mother's home. I care because when the state and the courts intervene in the most personal of cases, the children and families deserve our best. Juvenile court judges, whether they acknowledge it or not, are lawyers for each party. They're social workers, they're care coordinators, they're mediators, and they're cheerleaders. The decisions they make have a substantial impact on a family's life. I care because I believe you treat others as you want to be treated. Thank you.
And you're tuned in to our Senate hearing on foster children and the courts, held by the Subcommittee on Human Rights and the Law. That's held by the Committee on the Judiciary. We just heard from Judge Belton. She spoke about her long list of achievements and affiliations in child welfare. She has an extensive experience and personal experience being a former foster parent herself. And she pointed to many areas of improvement that she identified.
That's right. She also talked about being a CASA advocate. That's a court-appointed special advocate. These are people who are trained to work with youth, mentor them, children in the foster care system. They get to know them very well, and they provide this kind of unbiased look into how the care is being delivered, as well as offering this intimate, care-driven support for the child, just showing up and being a positive influence in their lives.
And the two judges who we heard from just before both pointed to a lack of information that they said they were getting in order to make their decisions, and their concern about that. This judge focused more on the issues that she saw within the system, saying there were issues with delays in obtaining assessments, barriers to identifying service providers, and even ensuring that the right platforms were used when services were actually provided.
That's right. She had actually a pretty big list. She talked about the lack of appeals with routine denials, the lack of collaboration between different agencies, case managers working in silos, not actually aware of the resources available to them in their state.
So there are many tragedies here, because a lot of this does seem like it could be fixed fairly easily. Somebody just not being aware of the resources that are out there. That does seem to be hopeful in a sense, but tragic in a way as well. So she pointed to, of course, the way that these child welfare workers are underpaid, overwhelmed, undertrained, burned out. All of these things lead to what she pointed to as a lack of creativity in collaboration, especially when it came to court orders, but also the lack of information would play into that too.
That's right, and they're burnt out emotionally too. I mean, we heard on Wednesday, this hearing is actually part of a string of hearings, and in the previous hearing on Wednesday, they had testimony from a woman who was arrested, and her 2-year-old child was put into the foster care system, and she wanted to have the child put under the care of her sister, who was a nurse, also a certified foster care provider. Instead, the child was put under the care of the child's biological father and his girlfriend, who has a history of child abuse as well as methamphetamine abuse, and the child was actually killed by this woman. I guess she was hit in the back of the head.
So tragic. We also heard in previous hearing about a child who had been through the foster care system, survived and was thankfully doing well, but suffered so much trauma. It was almost incredible that she was doing that well. This hearing will, this concludes our coverage of this hearing, but you can, of course, go online and see more of this very important topic.
Right, and we'll have more news for you after the break.
To a child, this is what conflict looks like. Children in Ukraine are caught in the crossfire of war, forced to flee their homes.
A steady stream of refugees has been coming across all day. It's bitterly cold.
Lacking clean water and sanitation, exposed to injury, hunger.
Exhausted and shell-shocked from what they've been through.
Every dollar you give can help bring a meal, a blanket, or simply hope to a child living in conflict. Please call or go online to GiveNowToSave.org today with your gift of $10 a month. That's just 33 cents a day. We cannot forget the children in places like Syria, born in refugee camps, playing in refugee camps, thinking of the camps as home. Please call or go online to GiveNowToSave.org today with your gift of $10 a month. Your gift can help children like Ara in Afghanistan, where nearly 20 years of conflict have forced the people into extreme poverty. Weakened and unable to hold herself up, Ara was brought to a Save the Children center where she was diagnosed and treated for severe malnutrition. Every dollar helps. Please call or go online to GiveNowToSave.org today with your gift of $10 a month, just 33 cents a day. And thanks to special government grants that are available now, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. And when you use your credit card, you'll receive this special Save the Children tote bag to show you won't forget the children who are living their lives in conflict. Every war is a war against children. Please, give now.
Fostering a pet for a friend or neighbor can keep families together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Anyone who's ever sold a home will tell you it's really hard. And it's one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. That's why who you work with matters. Together with Homelight, we take care of every detail.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
Negotiating the release of hostages. Hamas is still holding over 200 people. Find out what Israeli officials are doing to negotiate.
About half of the 18 to 35-year-olds believe Hamas's terror attack on Israel was justified. That's in the U.S. We'll take a deep dive into what's causing this trend and the anti-Israel protests around the world.
Former President Trump's legal battles, do they actually hurt his campaign or not? Find out what Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is now saying.
Sundar Pichai, chief executive of Alphabet, testifies today in the once-in-a-generation antitrust fight over Google's dominance. What did he say?
China vowing to boost defense ties with Washington as Beijing hosts its biggest military forum. Hear what China's #2 military leader had to say.
Russia's defense minister said Moscow is ready for talks, but that the West would have to give up its stance on Russia. We have the details on that and his warning of conflict in the Asia-Pacific.
Israel is continuing ground operations in Gaza. This comes ahead of an expected full-scale ground invasion.
As of now, operations are mostly focused in the northern Gaza area.
We are assessing the situation continuously, progressing gradually in accordance with our operational plans. The offensive activity will expand and intensify in accordance with the phases of the war and its objectives.
Israel says fighters killed dozens of terrorists in Gaza overnight. They barricaded themselves inside buildings and tried to kill forces that moved in their direction.
Israeli troops also arrested dozens of Hamas terrorists overnight. The IDF says they've arrested 700 terrorists so far.
And Fox News reports that an Israeli official has traveled to Qatar. That's for talks to release hostages held by Hamas.
Negotiations stalled on Friday, leading to high tensions between the parties. A U.S. official reportedly attending the meeting, aiming to support the talks. Anti-Israel sentiment on the rise. Protests in Russia, Britain, and even among young people in the U.S. Joining us live is NTD's Kelly Wright, host of America's Hope, who's been tracking this trend, examining the issue with experts and others deeply connected to the conflict. Kelly, thanks for joining us.
Steph, good afternoon to you. It's a pleasure to join you this hour.
Absolutely. And I want to begin with, over the weekend, protesters yelling slogans against Israelis rushed an airport in an ethnically Muslim region of Russia. We also saw in London 100,000 pro-Palestine protesters take to the streets. You've been speaking to counterterrorism experts. What do you think is causing this wave around the world?
Well, one of the top foreign policy and counterterrorism experts known throughout the world is Walid Phares. And Walid and I discussed this very topic last week. And the full interview will air tonight on America's Hope at 10 p.m. Eastern. But Waleed went on to tell me that what this is really a result of is not just the fact that Israel, with its right to defend itself, has conducted a relentless counterattack to make sure that it takes out Hamas, to remove any type of terrorist threat against them that would be akin to what happened on October 7th. But basically, Waleed was explaining that this is all induced and incited and funded by Iran. And as you know, Iran has definitely stated, at least its leaders, the Grand Ayatollah, has stated that it views Israel as the little Satan and the USA as the great Satan. So Waleed has basically said what's happening on college campuses throughout America has happened as a result of Iran's systemic change in the way we educate our children in academia. He says Hamas and Hezbollah and Palestinian and Gaza, all of them have been able to actually put this kind of education out there to actually make people feel more anti-Jewish, more anti-Semitic. And as a result of that, he believes that a lot of this is organized by Iran, and then its larger counterparts would be Russia and even China and North Korea and Syria.
And pivoting specifically to the U.S., in a Harvard-Harris poll, just over half of 18 to 24-year-olds believe that the October 7th terrorist attack in Israel was justified. Almost half of those 25 to 35 think so as well. How did we get here?
Well, we got here basically because of what Wally was talking about, the fact that the indoctrination or the miseducation and misinformation has been given to a lot of students on college campuses. And then even if you go back to Charlottesville in our own country, when we saw Unite the Right actually marching in protests in somewhat like a goose step against Jewish people, saying the Jews united will not be defeated, or they will not be defeated, and that they were anti-Semitic at that particular point in time. There's been a problem in this country. It's growing, and many rabbis that I've spoken to and even security experts have talked about the uptick, if you will, in anti-Semitism, to the point that synagogues are now being protected with a larger extent of focusing on more security, not just for the synagogues themselves, but for the people who attend those congregations. So there's a problem going on in this country, and it's quite alarming to people who have followed history going all the way back to Nazi Germany. Keep in mind, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz likened Hamas to being equivalent to Nazis, and President Biden has likened Hamas to being like the ISIS terror group, which is a group that would certainly behead even some of those people who are out on the streets protesting.
Now, many in the pro-Palestine camp say that anti-Zionism is different from anti-Semitism. What are experts saying about this perspective?
So that perspective comes from the fact that a lot of people are using an argument to say that Israel is committing racism and Zionism and trying to bring the Palestinian people to extinction. Many of the experts argue that that is not the case. They argue that Israel is trying to defend itself, and in the fog of war, actually in the counterattack that they're conducting, there will be unfortunate deaths on all sides. That does not negate what's happening humanitarian-wise in terms of what's happening in the Gaza. Bear in mind that many of these security experts that I've been speaking to talked about the fact that Israel, in its essence to defend itself, believing that it can be wiped out and annihilated if they allow Hamas and other terrorist groups to rise up and come against them the way they did on October 7th, that they would be wiped off the face of the map, which is what many of the pro-Hamas groups would like to see done, wiping them from the river to the sea. In that regard, the argument between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism, yeah, you could parse the two, but basically they're all coming down to the same scenario, and that is that many people are rising up to be anti-Jew, anti-Semitic, therefore anti-Zionist and anti-Israel. And by the way, there are many who are now anti-USA.
Yeah, Kelly, keeping all of this in mind, Democratic Representative Pramila Jayapal said yesterday that President Biden may risk losing Arab and Muslim votes due to his support for Israel. And Biden's also pretty strong in his support for humanitarian aid to Gazans. So what role do you think the U.S.'s influence is playing in this war?
Well, look, some members of Congress can speak as they want. This is America. You have the right to free speech. I would argue against what she stated. There are many Muslim Americans who don't like what they see happening, not only as it relates to the Palestinians, innocent civilians being caught in the quagmire and the quicksand of a war, but also they don't like what happened on the other side of the issue, October 7th. They are chagrined, they are angry, and they are wondering what's going on. Why is this happening? And then, of course, there are Christians and Jews, Arab and otherwise, working in that area to bring peace. There are people on the ground doing that. It would be good if members of Congress were to watch what they're saying, hold their tongues, use more wisdom and knowledge and understanding of the situation, and to try to broker peace, which many people are trying to do, rather than pointing fingers at the President of the United States and at each other, by the way. That doesn't get us anywhere. What really gets us somewhere is if we can have a diplomatic solution to this, understanding that Israel will try to defend itself and make sure that Hamas never rears its ugly head again. And there we are right now with a nation trying to defend itself against the tyranny and the insidious evil of a terrorist organization that doesn't mind beheading people and has done that before, even when the United States was conducting its war on terror. Perhaps the Congress member would go back and really study some history on all sides of the equation.
All right, Kelly Wright, host of America's Hope, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you can catch Kelly on America's Hope tonight, diving deeper into this issue with Walid Fares, a foreign policy analyst and the author of Iran, an Imperialist Republic and U.S. Policy. That's at 10 p.m. Eastern Time here on NTD and on our website. And House Speaker Mike Johnson said on Sunday he expects floor action this week to advance a standalone funding bill to support Israel. This move comes despite President Biden pushing for an Israel-Ukraine combined aid package of over $100 billion.
We believe that that is a pressing and urgent need. There are lots of things going on around the world that we have to address, and we will. But right now, what's happening in Israel takes the immediate attention, and I think we've got to separate that and get it through. I believe there'll be bipartisan support for that, and I'm going to push very hard for it.
Biden has called on Congress to approve more than $100 billion in aid, but the bulk of the money would bolster Ukraine's defenses against Russia. The rest would be split among Israel, the Indo-Pacific region, and immigration enforcement along the U.S.-Mexico border.
Johnson says bolstering support for Israel should top the national security agenda. This comes in the aftermath of the October 7th terror attack by Hamas terrorists from the Gaza Strip.
Will House Speaker Mike Johnson succeed in his new role? We speak with Lawrence Wilson, political reporter for the Epoch Times, about the Republican House leader who's already been dubbed MAGA Mike Johnson by the likes of former President Trump. Lawrence Wilson, thank you for joining us. Some are saying the election of Mike Johnson is a huge win for Republicans right now. He's been called MAGA Mike by politicians on both sides of the aisle. Just how conservative is the new speaker?
Well, he's about as conservative as you can get on fiscal and social issues, which is to say he's a red-blooded Republican. But he's not really that much more conservative than the average Republican in the House. The Heritage Foundation publishes a score for Republicans and Democrats as well based on their voting record. And Mike Johnson scored an 89 on that scale up to 100, and the average, or he scored a 90, I'm sorry, the average is 89 for Republicans. So there are some who are more moderate, there's some who are more conservative, but he's right there kind of in the middle of the pack. I think the real question is how much of a quote-unquote hardliner he'll be in pushing the Republican agenda. Will he take extreme positions, or will he be willing to moderate and compromise sometimes to get some progress?
And Lawrence, do we have any indicators about which path he'll take?
Well, yeah, a couple. First of all, just the speakership itself. It's a lot different than being a member, because a member can afford to make protest votes, take stances on things that are maybe impractical for the sake of their constituency. The speaker has to get things done, and that requires getting bills across the floor. Now, he's indicated his top priorities, and those are mostly fiscal and foreign relations matters. He wants to get appropriations done with good spending cuts in there. He wants to get support for Israel, deal with the Ukraine matter. There's also Iran and China. On social issues, he's signaled that that's not his top priority at the moment. I think we can look for solid moves in terms of getting spending cuts across and dealing with the two wars happening right now, plus other foreign threats. Maybe social issues will come later. We're not sure how hard he's going to push them.
Now, Lawrence, holding the Republican conference together proved too much for the former Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Will that be a bit easier now that they've been behind Mike Johnson? I mean, he got unanimous support from Republicans.
Yeah, I thought for a moment there they were going to break out into kumbaya on the House floor and all hold hands together. It was amazing after the last 3 weeks of disunity. And one congressman told me that he said it looks like the harder right elements of the Republican conference are going to give Johnson a little bit of leeway that they maybe were unwilling to give to McCarthy because they trust him more. But the honeymoon can only last so long. Those divisions are still there in the Republican conference. So time will tell.
All right, and what about this motion to vacate rule that led to McCarthy's demise? What does Johnson say about it?
Well, he said that that motion to vacate rule makes it a lot more difficult for the speaker to do his or her job. And that's obviously true given what happened with McCarthy. He's also said that he's not afraid to challenge it. In other words, that if somebody pushes that, he's not afraid to take up that fight. Now, Max Miller, congressman from Texas, is apparently making a move in that direction now. So we could see the speaker get behind that.
And Lawrence, what's coming up in Congress that will put Speaker Johnson's leadership to the test? There's a lot coming down the pike.
Yeah. Separating Ukraine support from support for Israel and border special appropriations, that's going to be the first big thing in which he's trying to do now. Appropriations is another one, getting that all done by November 17th. What happens if there's a need for another continuing resolution? Will the hardliners go along with that, or will they threaten a shutdown again? Unsure. Remember that Johnson is from a district with an Air Force base, an Army base, National Guard training center. It's a very pro-military base, and he's a little more interested in supporting Ukraine than some Republicans are. If he relies on Democratic votes for that, that could be another test for him and keeping that caucus together.
Yep. All right. Political reporter for the Epoch Times, Lawrence Wilson, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Up next, the United Auto Workers have reportedly reached a deal with the third and final car maker, GM. It's a final resolution to the strikes. Is a final resolution to the strike finally on the horizon?
And a look at former President Trump's legal battles. We bring you updates on two cases. One of them could prohibit Trump from being on the ballot in Colorado. More in a moment here on NTD News.
Stay tuned to get 2 rolls of Alien Tape free. You wouldn't stick your mother-in-law on the wall, but you could with Alien Tape. It just sticks. Just peel and stick to make anything stay in place quick. Brick, pavers, marble, tile, plastic, even leather. Nothing works better than Alien Tape. You wouldn't stick your fishbowl on a moving car, but you could with Alien Tape. The secret is nano-stick technology that grabs and locks on to secure one side of the surface to the other. Alien Tape secures in seconds, then twist, pull, and rinse to reuse. Call or go online to get your first roll of Alien Tape for just $19.99, plus shipping and processing. But to make this deal really stick, we'll give you 2 more rolls absolutely free. You get 3 rolls of Alien Tape for one low price. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-490-1364 or go to tryalientape.com. So call 1-800-490-1364 or order online at tryalientape.com.
Organize your freezer. Now keep your freezer fresh and long-lasting. Smart Freezer Container. Thanks, Shoigu. The magic of the freezer. Make efficient use of freezer space. Keep the freezer cleaner and more tidy. Easy to store modular system. Resistant from -22 degrees to 212 degrees. For family safety, BPA-free and LDPE material. Different sizes for different applications, depending on the size and use. Use it smartly. Efficient space utilization for cold air circulation. Neatly organized with minimal empty space. Partitions and trays for more efficient storage. Smart Freezer Container.
Thanks to Shoigu.
My Towels solved a problem that we've all had with towels. You go into the stores and they feel lotiony and soft, but then you get them home and they wind dry you. That's why I made My Towels. They actually work, they're soft, and they absorb. And now I'm excited to announce 2 brand new lines of My Towels. What makes them the best towels ever is they're now made with 100% long staple Shapir cotton. This is a combed ring spun cotton that makes My Towels even softer and more absorbent than ever. And now you get a 6-piece set for an amazing introductory sale price as low as $29.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get My Towels for only $29.98. Or you can get my designer premium line for just $20 more. Either way, you save 50% now on all My Towels. They actually work. What a concept. This offer won't last long, so please order now.
MyPillow.com. On International Reporters Roundtable, open border policy, human and drug trafficking, spreading disease and death, devastating migration pathways and countries left behind, children orphaned and gangs growing, migrant caravans overwhelming criminal cartels, and the covert invasion of potential terrorist spies and sleeper cells. Can the tide be turned? Guests Randy Clark, Jason Jones, and Michael Yan join us to discuss the dangers of unrestricted border policy. Tune in with NTD host Tiffany Meyer and our guest panel, giving us a clearer picture of these global events. Saturday at 7 p.m. or Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Welcome back. We're finally seeing a potential end to the big 3 auto strikes. According to the media reports, car maker General Motors has reached a deal with the United Auto Workers. GM is the 3rd and final automaker to do so. Ford was the first. It reached an agreement on Wednesday. Stellantis did so on Saturday. These agreements are not final. Members at the automakers still have to ratify the agreements before they become final. The 3 agreements are reportedly very similar, and they include, the 3 agreements are reportedly very similar. They reportedly include a starting wage of over $28 an hour. That would be around $58,000 per year. The strikes lasted 6 weeks and cost the big 3 automakers billions of dollars in lost production. It's a once-in-a-generation antitrust fight with U.S. government over Google's dominance.
Sundar Pichai, CEO of Alphabet and its subsidiary Google, testified today. Here joining us to discuss is NTD Business host Don Ma. Don, can you give us a brief overview of the case?
Yeah, sure, Steph. Basically, the U.S. is accusing Google of unlawfully stifling competition. The company is being accused of paying wireless carriers and smartphone makers billions of dollars here to make Google search the default or even the only option on products which are used by millions of consumers. Justice Department lawyers have previously said that Google illegally maintained a monopoly for more than a decade, and regulators are alleging Google has rigged the market in its favor. Some of its rivals, including DuckDuckGo, for example, have also complained about the situation. They say Google is not playing fairly because removing Google as the default search engine on a device takes too many steps. So, some people just don't bother doing that because it's too much trouble. The case, as you mentioned earlier, is widely seen as one of the biggest challenges to tech industry power in 25 years. This is a legal showdown that could potentially reshape one of the internet's most dominant platforms.
What's Google's argument here, Don?
Of course, Google denies the accusations. Sundar Pichai today argued that Google's dominance owes to people preferring Google because it's the best and not because it has behaved illegally in any way to gain and preserve a monopoly. Google also previously argued as well that it faces a wide range of competition ranging from other search engines like Microsoft's Bing, DuckDuckGo, as I mentioned earlier, to websites like Amazon and Yelp as well. Google's lawyers have also said before that users today have more search options and more ways to access information online than ever before. Another stance here by Google is that consumers can simply delete the Google app from their devices or simply go to Microsoft's Bing search engine, or Yahoo, or DuckDuckGo as an alternative search engine. And that they're saying consumers stick with Google because they like the answers that the search engine gives them.
And what's at stake here for the search giant, Don?
So, what's at stake is potentially the way Google distributes its search engine to users. The judge may potentially decide to order Google to stop practices that have been found to be illegal, or he may order Google to sell assets. It could also lead to fewer users, lowered profits. The government said in its lawsuit that the court could actually even break up the company as a solution. But, this would be an extreme outcome.
All right. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis still trailing far behind former President Trump in the polls.
DeSantis told NBC Trump's legal battles help the former president and his campaign.
Had Alvin Bragg not politicized this back in April, I think probably the primary would be looking different. I think that gave the former president more support. I think people felt that he was being treated unfairly, which he was in that circumstance.
Trump is facing legal battles in multiple states. However, polls indicate that those issues actually help him gain popularity.
Also last week, only Jewish Republican in Florida's state legislature switched his endorsement from DeSantis to Trump. He said the governor hasn't done enough to counter neo-Nazi harassment in Florida.
This comes as yet another trial surrounding Trump beginning today in Colorado. The court will determine whether Trump is disqualified from the state's ballot in the 2024 election. That's over his purported role in the January 6th riots.
A rarely used Civil War-era provision of the Constitution bars people who have engaged in insurrection or rebellion from holding federal office. Trump faces similar lawsuits in Michigan and Minnesota, but the Colorado case is the first to go to trial.
And in another Trump case, the former president is expected to testify next week.
That's in the civil fraud case in New York. The judge has already ruled Trump liable for fraud. He also ordered the dissolution of his Trump organization.
The trial now deals with how much Trump has to pay in damages. The trial is expected to last through December. The Department of Defense is aiming to build a new nuclear weapon. The DoD says it's looking for congressional approval and funding to pursue a modern variant of the B-61 nuclear gravity bomb. The military said the B-61-13 is a response to a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape, especially amid the renewed threat of nuclear war. The B-61-13 would be deliverable by modern aircraft. The weapon is intended to strengthen the U.S. nuclear deterrent. The program is also meant to assure allies that the U.S. is a reliable partner. The DoD says the bomb would give the president additional options against military targets. The munition would replace current nuclear stocks and have a similar yield.
A Florida congressman is voicing concerns about a group of Chinese immigrants that arrived in the Florida Keys. Customs and Border Protection detained 17 Chinese illegal immigrants on Florida's Key Largo last week. The group included 3 Ecuadorians who were taken into custody as well. Congressman Carlos Gimenez told Fox News that he wants CBP to provide more information on the detainees. The House Republican represents Florida's 28th district, which includes Key Largo. He said the arrivals should worry every American. The congressman is also on the Homeland Security and China Select committees. He told Fox that he wasn't shocked by the arrivals, considering the Biden administration's border policies. His fellow Republicans have also raised concerns about other adversaries slipping into the country. And next, we turn to the account of one woman's experience of life under Chinese dictator Mao Zedong and his infamous Cultural Revolution. Xi Van Fleet fled to America to find freedom, and now she's sounding the alarm over what she sees as fractures in this society that could split the country in all too familiar ways. Her new book, Mao's America, A Survivor's Warning, is available in hardcover, audiobook, and ebook formats starting tomorrow. But first, we have a sneak peek. Xi Van Fleet, welcome to our show. Thanks so much for coming on. Your book is titled Mao's America, A Survivor's Warning. So what's your warning to America, and why now?
Yeah, the warning is that we are in the midst of a Marxist revolution. We did not invite it. The war was waged on us. I know it because I've been through one 50 years ago, and I'm going through one right now with millions of Americans.
And so what specific examples do you have of the parallels that you've drawn between your experience of Mao's Cultural Revolution and America today?
Read the book. But in general, I can say the identity politics, which was designed to divide us and make us enemy of each other, cancel culture, and crush of free speech. And also weaponize youth by indoctrination. All this I've been through, and all this the hallmark of the Chinese Cultural Revolution, and it is also the hallmarks of this American Cultural Revolution.
And you've pointed to critical race theory as something of concern in the midst of all of this. What do you think people can do to address concerns that they might have while maintaining their freedom? As you've said, there is quite a bit of pushback against people who oppose critical race theory.
Yeah, what we're really fighting is our freedom. So what they can do, I think the first thing they have to understand what we're dealing with, the nature of woke or wokeism. Only when you understand, you can fight back. And how to fight back? Get involved and take action. And I talked to some people who read the advanced copy, and they told me if anything they learned from this book is that they have to take action. When I heard that, I said, if I can achieve that, this book will be a huge success. It's not about just reading it. It's really about understanding and taking action.
And on that point, Xi, you've said that you believe the Cultural Revolution, Mao's Cultural Revolution, shares the same goal as the political and climate in the U.S. today and the trends that you're seeing. What do you think that people can, what are potential consequences do you anticipate if this goes unchecked?
Yes, the goal is the same. It's power. It's the elite taking power. In the Chinese Cultural Revolution, it was Mao who wanted to take absolute power. And for that, he was willing to destroy the whole country. And the same is happening in America. The elite want to take power and take our freedom away. And for that, they are willing to destroy this great country.
And so what message do you have for people who may be skeptical about the message that you have and the warning that you have?
Okay, so there are people who would not believe what I say. And for those people, there's nothing more I can say to you, because I'm not telling you something that I learned from books or did some research. This is my experience. This is history. And if you refuse to learn it, there's nothing more I can say to you. But I want people to know what I'm saying is lived experience, using the left terminology. And I'm telling you, if you want to find it out yourself, by then it might be too late.
And you fled communism to the free America. What are some of the key values and principles that you believe make America special and worth preserving?
Exceptionalist, yes. American is a very, very exceptional place. And for one thing, I would say this country is built on the belief that our freedom is granted by our Creator. This is alien to the Chinese civilization, alien to many, many other civilizations and cultures. This is unique to America. And that is the most precious gift that we have. And that was the foundation of our freedom. And the government, its sole responsibility is to ensure that our rights were protected. And that's what we're fighting for our freedom.
Xi Van Fleet, thank you so much. Author of Mao's America, A Survivor's Warning, out on October 31st. Hope
tomorrow.
That's right. Thank you so much.
Still to come, a Washington state senator saved from a jail sentence in Hong Kong, why he was acquitted of gun charges, and what he said about the case.
And it's been 1 year since the Halloween crush in South Korea that killed over 150 young people. Find out how Koreans are remembering those killed and planning for the future.
This is it, the culmination of everything our young athlete has worked for these past months. He's filled with determination. You can see it in his face. Is today the day he overcomes? And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's on fire. Nothing can stop him. Watch him as he heads towards the goal. Oh, he's blocked hard, but that doesn't stop him. He's a warrior. He's back up. His eyes are on the goal. He's set up for the shot. He shoots. Goal!
Achieving goals like this is only possible with the monthly support of people just like you.
Please call the number on your screen right now and give your monthly support to Shriners Hospitals for Children so other children can reach their goals too.
If you give just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we will send you your very own Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of the love you're giving us. Because of monthly support of people like you, nothing is stopping me from achieving my goals.
And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's going left. Oh, he fakes right and continues. Look at those moves. He takes the shot. Goal! Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to give right away. Your monthly gift helps kids achieve their goals. Goal!
Anyone who's ever sold a home can tell you it is really hard. That's why who you work with matters. Together with Homelight, we've helped thousands of people sell faster and for the best price.
Say goodbye to harsh, bitter coffee and hello to a delicious, smooth brew. With specialty quality beans, expertly roasted in-house, you'll taste the difference with every sip. fermented with a blend of 50 enzymes. Days Coffee delivers a rich brew like no other. Made with the highest grade specialty beans available, you're sure to taste the difference. Elevate your morning with Days Enzyme Fermented Coffee.
Welcome back. And now for some top news from around the world.
Pro-Palestine rioters storming an airport in Russia. The airport in the Republic of Dagestan had to close on Sunday after a group of protesters stormed the runway.
They were looking for an Israeli flight. Their goal was to find passengers in a flight that arrives from Tel Aviv. They caused some damage in customs zone, passport control area, and other areas.
They also broke through the fences surrounding the runways. The Biden administration commented on the incident, saying it condemns the anti-Semitic protests.
A Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman said the incident was the result of a provocation orchestrated from outside Russia, with Ukraine playing a direct and key role. She referred to online resources linked to a former Russian lawmaker. Kyiv has denied any connection to the unrest.
At the same time, Russians remembered the victims of political oppression on Sunday.
People laid flowers in front of the Federal Security Service, former KGB headquarters in Moscow.
Natan Lazarovich Fruman, store manager, 48 years old, executed in 1938.
Kalmal Fritz Germanovich, born in 1895, director of the Stalingrad oil depot, accused of counter-revolutionary activity and espionage, executed in 1937.
The action came ahead of a Remembrance Day of the victims of political repressions. It's marked annually on October 30th.
The event has been organized by human rights group Memorial since 2007. The group was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002.
And in Ukraine, people held a race remembering the people who died in the war against Russia.
Around 2,000 Ukrainians participated in the 1-kilometer race.
Many of our comrades won't ever be alive again, and I won't be able to shake their hands or sit down with them. But they remain inside here, and we must live with this, and we need to carry their cross just as we do our own.
This is the token of gratitude to everyone who defends and has defended our country. I believe it shows that we are not indifferent to what is happening right now.
A group of veterans on wheelchairs and crutches started the race. Each runner chose one person to whom they dedicated their run.
The organizers of the run called it the world's longest marathon, saying no race has lasted as long as Ukraine's fight for freedom.
Meanwhile, the European Union will financially support countries in Eastern Europe.
The bloc plans on giving over $6 billion to countries in the Western Balkans to pursue reforms.
What we aim to do together is to double your economy within the next decade. And this is the reason why we present the new growth plan for the Western Balkans.
Von der Leyen said the EU's new growth plan for the region includes the opening of its common market to the Western Balkan countries. That's in areas such as free movement of goods and services, transport, and energy.
The Union is also urging the countries to open a common regional market and pursue necessary reforms.
In Kazakhstan, officials say at least 45 miners were killed in a fire at a coal mine over the weekend. Rescue crews are still searching for one missing person.
More than 200 people were reportedly inside the mine when a methane explosion started the fire. A criminal investigation is now underway. Kazakhstan's president declared a national day of mourning, and flags were flown at half-mast yesterday.
And in Spain, police seized over 1,500 pounds of cocaine. The drugs were hidden among scrap metal in a truck from Costa Rica.
Footage shows officers dismantling the truck and finding blue packs inside an aluminum container. Police said 8 people were arrested. And turning to China, where a key defense forum is underway in the country's capital. China's number 2 military official stressed the need to develop military ties with the U.S., but at the same time, he accused, quote, some countries of interfering in China's internal affairs.
Zhang Youxia made the remarks at the Shangshan Forum, China's biggest annual military diplomacy event. The gathering is being held days after Beijing removed its former defense minister Li Shangfu without naming a replacement.
The U.S. Defense Department sent a delegation to the forum. Beijing and Washington have had no high-level military-to-military communications since March. That's when China appointed Li, the man sanctioned by Washington for overseeing weapon purchases from Russia.
Also speaking at the Xiangshan Forum, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. He said Moscow is ready for talks if the West abandons the idea of defeating Russia.
Specifically, he said Russia would discuss the settlement of the Ukraine and further coexistence with the West, but emphasized that these talks would only happen under certain conditions.
Shoigu also accused the West of working to expand the war in Ukraine to Asia-Pacific by its military presence there. Russia maintains that the West similarly provoked the war in Ukraine and is trying to undermine Russia's security.
China has refused to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine and has vowed to deepen economic and military cooperation with Moscow.
Staying in Beijing, despite dangerously high levels of smog, some 30,000 runners took part in a marathon in the city without wearing masks.
According to a Swiss air quality tech firm, Beijing was ranked as the second most populated major city in the world on Sunday. This smoggy condition brings back memories of a decade ago when marathon goers had to wear masks for protection.
Chinese authorities say the smog will blanket parts of the country for the next few days before dissipating later this week. For the first time, the U.S. has started buying Japanese seafood to supply its military in the country. That's in a bid to offset China's import ban after Japan's Fukushima water release in August.
In announcing the initiative, U.S. Ambassador to Japan Rahm Emanuel said it would begin with the purchases of scallops before expanding to all types of Japanese seafood.
China will continue its economic coercion, but the best way we have proven in all the instances to kind of wear out China's economic coercion is come to the aid and assistance of the targeted country or industry. So this is one step.
Emanuel said the purchases would feed soldiers and be sold in shops and restaurants on military bases. He said the U.S. military had not previously purchased local seafood in Japan.
Beijing was once the biggest buyer of Japanese seafood globally. The regime says its import ban is due to food safety fears. But the UN nuclear watchdog has vouched for the safety of Japan's water release.
A Washington state lawmaker was acquitted by a Hong Kong court on Monday of illegally possessing a firearm. Washington State Senator Jeff Wilson was arrested on October 21st after he arrived at the Hong Kong airport with a pistol in his carry-on luggage.
In his acquittal, the magistrate fined Wilson over $250 and gave him a 2-year good behavior order, and said the court was inclined to believe that the Republican did not deliberately break the law. In a statement on his website, Wilson called it an honest mistake.
He said he only discovered the gun in his briefcase mid-flight from San Francisco and that airport security in Portland had failed to detect it.
By carrying a firearm without a license, Wilson could have faced a fine of up to nearly $13,000 and a maximum of 14 years in prison.
Chinese property giant Evergrande has been granted one last chance. Today, a hearing to wind up the company was adjourned until December 4th. A Hong Kong judge ruled that this was the company's final opportunity to come up with a restructuring plan. If it fails, Evergrande will probably face liquidation. Here's more.
The giant developer has over $300 billion in liabilities and defaulted on its offshore debt in 2021. It's become a symbol of a crisis that has engulfed China's real estate sector, which accounts for about a quarter of the country's economy. That leaves investors around the world worried what might happen if giant companies like Evergrande face a chaotic collapse. Now the court says the developer has to come up with a revised restructuring plan before the December hearing. Its previous plan was thrown into doubt last month after news that the firm's founder was under investigation for criminal activities. Evergrande has also been barred from issuing new debt due to a probe into its flagship property unit. One lawyer for a major group of creditors said they supported the court adjournment, saying they would still prefer a restructuring to liquidation. Evergrande did not respond to a request for comment.
It's been 1 year since the deadly Halloween crash in South Korea. The country held a memorial ceremony to mark the day. The tragedy left more than 150 people dead and hundreds injured. Let's zoom in.
A year after 159 Halloween revelers were killed in a crowd crash in South Korea, the capital's nightlife districts of Itaewon was quiet. Halloween decorations were replaced with posters and flowers in the alleys that once hosted lively festivities. Last year's crowd surge in Itaewon, resulting in the tragic alley crash, was attributed to insufficient preparation and crowd control, with early calls for help going unanswered. Most victims were in their 20s and 30s. Some residents and visitors came to Itaewon to pay their respect to the victims.
I've been emotionally devastated for the past year over the young friends who tragically lost their lives here. I've come here also to show the children the impact of such a tragedy and to mourn those individuals. That's why I'm here.
Gatherings have not been banned in Itaewon over Halloween this year. However, the authorities conducted crowd control drills using an AI-backed networks of cameras. Last year's tragedy led to a police investigation, revealing negligence and a poor response by authorities. Families of victims call for a special legislation of a bill to find out the truth behind the tragedy. While 23 officials were referred for prosecution, no senior government officials resigned or were removed over the disaster.
A breaking update on the stabbing of a young Palestinian boy in Chicago. The landlord, accused of killing the boy, is pleading not guilty in court this morning. The 71-year-old landlord was indicted last week. He's accused of fatally stabbing a 6-year-old Palestinian boy, also of critically hurting the mother in an alleged hate crime. Allegations say the landlord attacked the two because of their religion and nationality. The Justice Department and the FBI are also looking at the hate crime charges.
Coming up, fans pay tribute to actor Matthew Perry at his Los Angeles home. The Friends star died over the weekend in an apparent drowning.
And some tall trees, soon to be easier to visit. Tasmania is home to the tallest trees in the Southern Hemisphere. Hear about the efforts to protect them here on NTD News Today.
Did you know African elephants could become extinct in our lifetime? In fact, more than 90% are already gone. If we don't act now, they will disappear forever. But we can't do it alone, because when it comes to saving elephants, it's you plus IFAW, the International Fund for Animal Welfare. You plus IFAW together can help stop poaching, protect habitats, and save thousands of elephants. Call or go online right now to join IFAW.org and give $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. You can save elephants and the places they call home. Together, we can fund rangers to stop poachers in their tracks, protect the land elephants need to roam and survive, and provide loving care for those who have been orphaned so they can one day be released back into the wild. But the only way we can do this life-saving work is with you plus IFAW. So call or go online with your gift right now. With the monthly support of people just like you, elephants like Moses are alive and thriving today. It takes years of hard work from dedicated teams so orphaned elephants can learn the skills they need to survive in the wild. So please, call now or go online with your monthly gift. You can help provide the urgent care elephants need so this generation won't be the last. And when you use your credit card, you'll get this exclusive membership kit, including your very own IFAW t-shirt to show it's you plus IFAW standing together to help rescue and care for these majestic creatures. the danger for elephants is more urgent than ever before. That's why we need you. It's going to take all of us to help save elephants before they disappear forever. So please, call right away or go to joinifa.org with your monthly gift, because together, you plus IFA can save lives.
It's just clear as day. The media, whether it's broadcast, cable, or print media, has become extremely biased. And I started looking online for alternative ways to get information. And I saw an ad for a free trial. And I looked at it and I said, Epoch Times. I mean, come on, this is end of days type of stuff. I mean, what are they going to be talking about here? And I said, well, it's a free trial. Let me dig in. Is it giving me both sides? Is it giving me an objective point of view here? I have looked for opportunities to see where they might be biased, and I don't find it. It has given me a level of trust in media that I didn't think I'd ever get back. I love the Epoch Times because it has renewed my faith in the idea that a reliable, responsible, non-biased source of information is available. And I can say that I love it because of that.
Thank you for staying with us. Fans paid tribute to actor Matthew Perry on Sunday, laying flowers at his Los Angeles home.
The Friends star died over the weekend in an apparent drowning.
There's a lot of people with addiction, and he helped a lot of people. So that to me is, he gave back to his community, he gave back to people. My husband actually found out about it, so then he couldn't believe it. So we were all shocked. We were hoping it was not true. We're still in disbelief.
Perry was only 54. He was born in Massachusetts and raised in Canada. The actor struggled with alcohol and drug addiction for much of his life and career.
Perry was found dead in a hot tub at his LA home Saturday afternoon. The actor played Chandler Bing for 10 seasons on the hit TV series Friends, which ran from 1994 to 2004.
Some more sad news over the weekend. Hockey player Adam Johnson died following a freak accident on the ice. It happened during an English Hockey League game. Johnson's team, the Nottingham Panthers, faced off against the Sheffield Steelers. Johnson suffered a major neck injury after colliding with another player in the second period in the game. According to the Washington Post, he was cut by a skate blade. In a statement, the Nottingham Panthers said they are truly devastated by Johnson's death. During his career, the Minnesota native made it to the National Hockey League, where he played for the Pittsburgh Penguins for 2 years. He also spent time in the American Hockey League. Johnson was 29 years old. Besides livening up bland foods, chili peppers have many notable advantages.
On this episode of Strong Mind and Body, we'll look at the health benefits of peppers. Here's Gina Marie.
Peppers are fruits of an array of types and flavors, from sweet or pungent to fiery hot, but they all offer a wealth of essential nutrients. Bells come in a variety of colors: green, yellow, orange, red, and purple. Chili peppers are renowned for their mild to fiery hot spiciness. All are rich in dietary fiber, vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. Numerous studies have shown the health benefits of adding peppers into your diet. Let's look at 7 notable benefits, starting with eye health. Number 1, protect the eyes. Peppers are rich in vitamin A and compounds such as beta-carotene and lutein. These vitamins and phytonutrients protect the eyes from macular degeneration. They also help to maintain good retinal health by preventing oxidative damage. Number 2, prevent cancer. Bell peppers contain beta-carotene and vitamin C, which can inhibit carcinogenic substances. Research from South Korea suggests that postmenopausal women who consume bell peppers may have a lower risk of developing breast cancer. Number 3, delay aging. Bell peppers are abundant in vitamin C. This is a potent antioxidant that can counteract excessive free radicals and delay aging. Number 4, protect the heart. The compound capsaicin found in chili peppers is associated with heart protection, weight management, and anti-tumor effects. Number 5. Boost immunity. Bell peppers are rich in vitamin C, which supports the immune system. Number 6. Help weight loss. As peppers are low in calories and rich in dietary fiber, they increase satiety and reduce food intake. And number 7. Relieve constipation. As a rich source of dietary fiber, bell peppers are beneficial for digestive health. Consuming bell peppers can stimulate gastrointestinal motility and metabolism. This alleviates constipation and maintains intestinal health.
Thank you for staying with us. Tasmania is famous for its breathtaking mountains and pristine coastlines, but it's also where the tallest flowering trees in the world grow.
NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on calls to make these natural marvels more accessible to the public.
Now their lives are threatened. Bushfires in 2019 destroyed 16 of Tasmania's 25 tallest trees. But tourism could help bring it. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Wow, that centurion tree is actually one of the tallest trees in the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's taller than Big Ben.
That is very tall. I know the oldest tree is 4,800 years old.
What?
Yeah, it's a pine tree somewhere in California. We don't know exactly where. Its location's being kept a secret.
That's incredible. Should we go look for it?
Okay. And we're out.
That's right. That's all for today's news.
Thank you for tuning in.
Feel free to reach out to us with news tips or feedback at news.today@ntd.com.
And we'll be back with more stories tomorrow.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.